Hi, my name's Glenn A. Baker. I first met Tommy Evans unexpectedly at the 1982 Meedham Music Industry Trade Convention in the south of France. He was introduced to me by Alex Young of Grapefruit and Big Brother to various Easy Beats and AC/DC's fame. I found Tommy so charming and self-effacing that I undertook to sit down with him for a proper interview the next time I was in London. The meeting took place under a tree in the backyard of his house in January 1983. In good humour, he reminisced enthusiastically about Liverpool, the Ivies, Apple, the Beatles, Badfinger's erratic fortunes, and even his comrade Pete Ham, who had suicided 8 years earlier. It was a warm and easy interview, and as I've only just rediscovered, a remarkably revealing one.
The earliest I know from is the Ivies, but is there something before that I should know?
No, a band called the Calderstones from Liverpool, the local mod band in Liverpool. Apart from that, I went straight to the Ivies. 5 years on the road in England, in a transit van, and then we met the Beatles and recorded Maybe Tomorrow.
That's jumping quite ahead. How did you meet the Beatles? I mean, how did you get signed to the prestigious Apple label? How did that happen?
Well, it was during a period we were always interested in songwriting. We all lived in Golders Green in the same house, at this small studio there, with a Revox tape recorder. And it was the first to be able to overdub voices, on one tape recorder was the amazing thing for me. That's why I left Liverpool for London and give up all the background that I had in engineering and all that bullshit. And so we had about 500 songs on tape. We'd go and play on the road, come back home at night and go in the studio and make a row. And we were looking around at publishers, record companies. Dean out the Marmalade wanted to do things with us. There's a lot of interest in the band. And Paul McCartney's dad used to play in a dance band. And this manager we had, Bill Collins, used to be in a rival dance band in Liverpool in the 30s. So we knew McCartney's dad. And he said, I think I'll go down to Abbey Road. I think they were making probably Sgt. Pepper. They're all out of their heads on acid or whatever, And this old grey-haired guy goes in there smoking a pipe. He gets into EMI somehow. I says, Paul, and he says, yeah, my name's Bill Collins. I used to be in a rival dance band to your dad, This is this guy out of his head on acid. But anyway, the guy took the time to talk to him about the old days, And he told Bill that they were forming a record company. Send us some tapes. So we just put a big box of tapes on 500 songs in a box and sent them to Apple. But that was before Apple. It just actually started, It was in, I think, Baker Street then. I think they must have gone through one tape and McCartney came back and said, well, yeah, I like the ideas and everything, but there's no singles there, keep on. So we just carried on doing what we were doing. And in the end, it was Lennon, actually. He said, yeah, we'll sign Lennon and Harrison. He said, we'll sign them. So we were on the label for about a year before we had anything out.
Well, in fact, you did an album that was only ever released in Italy.
Yeah, it was what we were doing is just recording loads of tracks trying to get the single, A lot of them were very inferior quality. A lot of people said they liked that album, but some of it's very naff.
I like it. I think it's a lovely pop album, very bright and unpretentious. Because it's been pirated so well that you can now buy copies of it anywhere.
Yeah. It's got a lot of tracks on there that are really embarrassing to me. The European version.
Well, that's the only version. There was only a European album, wasn't there? Italy was the only country that put it out.
A lot of the tracks went on Magic Christian, but some of the things, I'm in love, some of the things are really bad.
Well, apart from the Italian album, how did you finally grind into action on the Apple? And apart from the Maybe Tomorrow single,
we had Maybe Tomorrow, and I always remember Paul coming down the stairs of Apple saying, "I think you got a hit record there." We went in and played it to Tony Visconti was producing at the time, and we played all the backtracks that we did. It was a great period that we were doing it at Trident. McCartney came down one night. It was kind of our first recording experience, really. And we're doing this one song, and the bass player at the time, Ron Griffiths, did this kind of monologue over the top of it, and it really, looking back on it now, it wouldn't have stood up the test of time, because it was like a kind of joke thing. McCartney came in and said, boys, I don't think you really should leave that on there. 10 years' time, you're going to listen to that and you're going to say, did I do that, So, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he went down the basement in the studio, got in the drum kit, tried to kit, the sound out and whatever. And he got on the piano and started playing this song. He said, I've just been to John's. He said, he didn't like this song. I've been working with him, but really weren't getting anywhere with it. So, I don't think we'll use it. But what do you think of it? And it was like, hey, Jude, don't make it bad. And he was doing all the drum bits. And at the end of it, he said, what do you think of it? Do you think it's any good? In the McCartney-ish type way, the innocence that he has in his eyes. We were just like young kids going, what can you say,
Although you said it was Lennon and Harrison's choice to sign the band, McCartney was closer to you, wasn't he?
Well, he was the one that got the Magic Christian music, The film for that was out. He said, look, I've got this song. I've been asked to do the film. I really don't have the time. Do you want to do it, Here's the song, and it was Come and Get It. And it was demoed with him playing everything on it. And we just copy that the way it is. And I think you'll have a hit with it, So we all learned all the parts on it, We did it in about 3 hours. And then we went on to write the rest of the music for the film. There was one scene in it. It's like a disco scene in it, where they had, I think it was Respect, maybe Aretha Franklin singing Respect. It was like a soul thing, anyway. And we had to cover that in the film with our song. We really didn't know what to do, whether to do a soul song or whatever, Anyway, the time for the recording of it came, and we're all sitting around there not having a song together, We had a soul type song together. And he says, what have you got, lads? McCartney comes in, what have you got? Well, we don't really know. And he says, what do you mean? What do you know that's exciting? And I said, well, I can do Long Tall Sally in G. And he goes, G, eh? Okay then. So we just made a song up like Long Tall Sally in G. And we didn't know how the tune was going to go, just play the backtrack, And that was probably one of the best buzzers of my life, one of them, when we come to do the tune over it. And I was floundering because I didn't really know how the tune was going to go. So he sang with me. We just kind of both made it up. And there was a great take of me and him singing. And I said, you got to use that in the record. Please use that in the record. He says, no, you go down and do it properly now, Rock of Ages. Oh. Take it over, man. It's B-side to Come and Get It.
Yeah, well, I presumed as much. I just wanted to confirm.
McCartney's playing the piano on that, actually. There's a lot of good fluff bum piano notes on that, if you listen to that record, if you've still got one. After that session as well, he played us another song. He said, I've just written this song last night, and it's Maybe I'm Amazed at the Way You Love Me. And he played that one. So, he asked again, what do you think of that, He was having a lot of troubles with Lennon at the time. The phone was going all the time. A lot of swearing down phones and things,
You must have found it very hard as a band to escape that Junior Beatles tag, being on Apple and having Paul write your first big hit. I mean, was it difficult to assert yourselves as a band after that?
Well, it was the time of, the early 70s, the time of heavy rock music. Grow your hair, take dope and be out of it on stage. And so we went through all that period, and I think that's what basically degenerated the band. We lost that ability to just write simple pop songs, and we got into blowing and jamming on stage, and it kind of lost its identity. The band got a lot better for it, But I think from there on out, purely because we were trying to get rid of that Beatles tag too. I mean, that's why we went that direction, But I think it was probably a big mistake to do that.
Though along the way there were some stunning singles. I mean, in retrospect, it seems quite the opposite. It seems that while everybody was going heavy and that you guys remained very bright and very fresh,
yeah.
maybe it's different from the outside than the inside.
Yeah, on those American tours, it wasn't so bright and fresh. I mean, some of the situations used to get in there. You know, we used to arrive at a college town, everybody would be out of it on mescaline. So, okay, we'll take some mescaline. Everyone's just, the whole place is out of it, you know, and it kind of does something to your brain, all that stuff, you know. It doesn't do you any good.
No. There was some gorgeous hit singles. Baby Blue, for one. Perhaps you can tell me about the bigger hits and how they came about, and the ones you like best.
Well, No Matter What, for instance, was we had that in a can for a year. That and Believe Me, because after we had Come and Get It Out, they said, "Well, go on, do another single." So we did Believe Me and No Matter What, and presented. Alan Klein had taken over then. Presented it to Klein, and he said, "I don't think it's a single. You know, go and carry on." And we said, "It is a single." So that was there for a year. And in the end, we'd done the same thing again as we did with the first album, just a load of tracks that weren't any connection with each other, you know, in an attempt to get a single. And in the end, Klein said, "Oh, we'll put that out as a single no matter what." After making the whole album, finishing it, and more or less producing it ourselves, we really produced that second album ourselves.
And then he had to eat his words.
No, he wasn't the type of man that eats his words.
No. What about Baby Blue?
Baby Blue is about Peter's infatuation for this girl who lived in Arizona. It was in his acid days. The first time we ever went to LA, we drove across the Arizona desert, you know, all on acid, and he fell in love. We picked this girl up. Actually, he fell in love with her on the bus. And he wrote a song when he was in LA about her.
I suppose that Badfinger will live in a legendary status. A, because, like I said, you were very different when everyone around you was going up in another direction. Like I said, regardless of what you think, we think you were quite bright and fresh. But there were little touches there that were very clever. Like the songwriting credit was always to, like, you know, Tom and Pete and all that
corny,
stuff.
yeah.
But why did you use first names on all your songwriting credits?
I don't know. It's just because we were naive, you know. That's, I guess. It was a kind of dogma about, you know, the early Beatles thing. It was, you know, let's face it. I mean, now, looking back on it, I can tell you the truth about it all. You know, people would ask us, who's your favourite bands? You know, who's your biggest influence? We said, the band, you know, Leon Russ, you know, anything but the Beatles. Because it just wasn't the thing to say. But now, looking back on it, I'm proud of the fact that we were identified in that way, and it's kind of an honour, you know.
Was it the fact, I mean, you came from Liverpool, like the Beatles. Did you feel a certain, an identity with the Beatles because you were fellow Liverpudlians?
Yeah, I mean, they were the first band I ever saw when I was 15. I used to snitch off school in the dinner hour, you know. And someone had told me about this place called the Cavern. So it was like a penny bus ride to there, you know. And I went in there. I've still got my card. It was like a shilling, you know, to join. And they were the first live band I ever saw in my life. I was into the Everly Brothers, Buddy Holly, you know. So I was into records and music. And I saw this band who played Red Sails in the Sunset. You know, it just hit me like a brick, you know, it just hit me. I mean, I saw all the other Mersey bands after that, but the Beatles were the ones they really were, you know. The big three were there, the Searchers would play, or Jerry and the Pacemakers. But the Beatles definitely had something,
What? What was it that was so invigorating?
Vitality, humour, songs. I mean, I didn't know half of the songs, well, not half of them, perhaps a third of the songs they were playing were their own. P.S. I Love You and Love Me Do. They never played Please Please Me. They used to do I Remember You, Frank Highfield.
It's on the Live at Hamburg album.
Is it?
Well, that is some very odd things.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
a lot of country and western influence there, with the R&B stuff, you know. I always remember Lennon singing Mr. Moonlight through these little... I mean, I didn't know what a PA was in those days, but just this voice coming, it was amazing. It got really packed in there. I just got started going just before when they came back from Hamburg the second time, and they started getting really crowded, and it got ridiculous in there. It was people on people's shoulders, and you were just standing, your hand in your hands were everywhere, people, and it was just wet. The place stunk.
What was it like growing up in Liverpool, which we now see as one of the most musical cities in the whole world at that point? I mean, what was it like? What were the influences, and what was the environment like, musical environment like, growing up in Liverpool?
Well, there were loads of clubs and loads of bands, and the competition was amazing. The musical environment was. Well, everyone had those old records. Everyone, copied all those Coasters hits, the Shirelles, and they just, as everyone knows, they just come from the dockers, from the people off the ships, To me, it was, I don't know really, because I was just there living it, and it was, I'd never been anywhere else, so I can't really quite. I mean, it's like looking at the rock scene today. I wouldn't really know what that's about.
But was there an impetus to play music, for young people to in fact to get into music?
Well, yeah, Liverpool is a kind of a musical place. I remember when I was from the age of 5. My mother has about 7 sisters and a couple of brothers, and my grandparents had these parties every Saturday night, and there's thousands of cousins, and everybody had to do a turn, as they called it, All my mother's sisters, they all played piano, so each one of them got up in turn, played the piano, and they had their sons or daughters do a tap dance, play them. I started off on the mouth organ, and then I graduated to a ukulele. And then some people who weren't musical, they'd do little magic tricks or stand on their hands for 10 minutes, anything just to entertain. And every Saturday you had to have a new set together, Yes. And I think a lot of families were like that. There was a lot of singing in pubs, I mean, that was you'd hang outside the pub steps, and your parents would go for a drink on Saturday afternoons. And it'd be rocking, the place would just, everyone would be singing, So I really don't consider that. But it is part of my background. I mean, there's nothing I like better than to, when I have a party, get a guitar out and have a sing-song. It's great, I love it, And that's, I think, where it's the Irish and all Liverpool people. It comes from Ireland,
Where did the name Badfinger come from?
It came from a tree. No, it was just, I think the Beatles had, it was Lady Madonna. Had Lady Madonna out, and that's from an old Humphrey Lyttelton record called Bad Penny Blues, right. Which is a direct rip-off of it, Yeah. Neil Aspinall said, "What about Bad Penny?" I must have been on someone must have been saying, "Oh, doesn't that sound a bit too much like that song?" So it must have been on everyone's consciousness, And then someone said Bad Finger, and okay, it's as good as anything, because we used to come out with lists and lists every day. Everyone had to write 100 names out, It's like being at school. And then we'd give them to Derek Taylor, we'd hone them down to 20 every day. What do you think of that? He said, since then, there's so many names come out of those lists that we had.
Because you had the supreme honour of Derek Taylor, wrote the liner notes on your first Italy-only album. Yeah. Strong success, couple of giant hits, tragedy struck with the death of Pete. Perhaps you could tell me about that.
Well, Peter moved in a house just up the road from here, We used to work quite a lot together upstairs, just writing. And it was coming to a state, Joey was getting dissatisfied with the management situation, and I'd 2 albums previous to the time, I'd found out we were getting robbed really bad, And I just overlooked it and just thought, well, the best thing to do is just carry on, But Peter was the type of person who, if he put his trust in someone, he would feel humiliated if he was wrong, He's a very stubborn type of guy. And we were sitting around one night playing the guitar. Actually, it was my birthday, and Mariana bought me, I live on the river here, Mariana bought me a dinghy for my birthday. It was like 12:30 at night, and Peter bought a bottle of scotch because at 12 it would be my birthday, so we were drinking away. And I said, let's pack it in now, And we were upstairs, Meanwhile, downstairs, my aunt's blowing this dinghy up, trying to make it a surprise. Anyway, he wouldn't let me down. Comes 12 o'clock, the dinghy's there, and we take it to the bottom of the garden, and he just does this joke. He just falls in the water. Instead of pretending he's going to go into the thing, he just falls in the water. I said, there's something wrong with this guy. He's going, So I talked to him later on. I said, what's on your mind? And he said, well, this situation, man, I don't think it's very good. And I said, well, everybody knows that. I'm just waiting for you to realise it, So he said, I think I want to do something about it. So I phoned the manager up, or the vice manager kind of thing, who was more aware of what was going on. And he said, yeah, he was going to leave, this manager that we had. He said, yeah, you're getting robbed. I'd advise you to leave. And this was spoken to directly to Peter, So the next night, it's like 10 o'clock. He said, let's go out for a drink, I've decided. So we go in a pub up the road there, and the English closing hours, it closed at 10:30, the last drinks. And he'd drunk about 10 scotches in that time. And I said, look, what's wrong? He said, well, I've decided, let's go back to your house and call this guy up and tell him it's all over, So we came back and talked some more, and he phoned him up. And the guy more or less said, well, you're in too deep now. If you want to get out, you try it, kind of thing. So it was down to a whole band situation, getting together and trying to figure it out. So I dropped him off about 3 a.m. We tried to write a few songs. And the last thing he said to me is, I'll see you again. And at 5 o'clock, his wife gets on the phone to me, screaming, and Peter's dead, So I went there, and she hadn't phoned the police, and that's all I know,
What? Hung himself,
yeah. Well, I just give up. I just packed in 2-3 years.
That dissolved the band as such.
Yeah.
Although the band under Joey does still sporadically, occasionally exist.
Yeah.
Recorded for Warner's and did things like that.
Yeah, I did that with Joey. Yeah. But it basically blew it all up. Joey was on the way out anyway, because of the situation that we were involved in. And it just put me right off the music business totally, But after a few years, I realised, well, the guy, Peter didn't stop anything. He didn't change anything. So what the hell? It's going to carry on anyway. So I may as well get back in the rut. Well, not the rut. Join it again.
Was it Apple that ripped you off?
Apple didn't rip us off. No. I mean, Alan Klein might have done, but we got paid from Apple. But it all went to this guy who used to pay us $1,000 a month
each. And pocket the rest.
Well, when you'd ask for statements, where's my money? He'd say, what do you want? So I started demanding things. I said, I want a house. I want a Porsche. I thought, I'm never going to get any hard cash to do with what I want, so I'll just keep demanding things.
Did you get the Porsche?
Yeah,
for the house?
I crashed it. We got the house. Yeah, it's right here.
This is what Badfinger bought this house.
No, I bought it, but everybody else was like Joey was too interested in buying stuff on his credit card. He got a gold. Treated like kids, total kids.
How did your relationship with McCartney or with the Beatles themselves fare after that initial burst with the Magic Christian?
Well, it was good because after that, then Harrison took an interest, we did a few things with him, and we played on his All Things Must Pass thing. We played Bangladesh. That was another...
Of course, I've got to ask you about that.
Big buzz for me,
Why don't you tell me about the Bangladesh concert?
Well, that was funny because we played acoustic guitars on most of the tracks in All Things Must Pass. And they said, we take the Badfinger boys over with us, We did. They couldn't hardly hear us and any of those things,
What was the concert like? Or what do you remember about the concert?
Well, I remember the week before there was a rehearsal period, and George was phoning all over the place trying to get the people. It was only Klaus Vaughan, Ringo, us, and Jim Keltner, I think, was there. So there was really no, there was all these hearsay reports. Dylan might be coming, and Lennon's coming, and anybody and anybody's going to come. But as the week went on, no one was turning up, you know, and it was like, it came to the sound rehearsal at Madison Square, and there was still the same 5 or 6 people that started the whole week, and Clapton was supposed to be coming, that's right. And at this rehearsal, just the day before the gig, everyone was getting really cold feet, you know, well, George was. And after we did all those things that we rehearsed, and then George said, let's get Bob up now. And Dylan had been watching, he'd arrived. And then that was one of the greatest things in my life. That just, I was sitting with Ringo's wife in Madison Square Gardens while Dylan just went through, he must have gone through about 20, 30 songs to find out the ones he was going to play on, you know. And he remembered the words to all of them, you know. Remember the words to all of them, it was amazing.
What was he like to work at backstage? And I mean, did you actually play during his performance?
No, that was very elite. That there was a lot of I don't know if I should mention, a bit of backstabbing going on there, because Klaus Forman was playing bass and Leon Russell said, "Oh, no, I'll do that," you know. And it was kind of a little bit of tense moment there. And then before the gig, me and Pete were just having a blow on acoustic guitars in the dressing room, heads down, you know, going away there. And another guitar joins in, and it's Dylan playing along, and it's like, oh, and I just froze. He says, no, carry on, it's good, you know. And that was, but I don't know, you get starstruck, you know, you get awestruck by things like that. To me, Dylan's one of my biggest heroes, you know.
I think there's not many people left in rock you can get awestruck by, but if there is anybody left, it's Dylan.
I mean, just those words he's said, the words the statements he's made come from somewhere else, you know, to me.
Bangladesh thing, and you did that, and then I suppose Pete's death didn't happen too long after that.
What was the Bangladesh thing? We had Without You was out around, course, so we were still on kind of a high.
Well,
you know?
that's a whole question in itself to talk about Without You. But let's talk about the song. Let's start with the song, because I mean, one of a contemporary standard.
Well, it was 2 bits of song that it was Pete's idea to stick it together. The bit I had was like Help, but it's based in essence mostly the chorus bit, you know. And he just had this other bit. He said we should stick those together, and we got in the studio and we were doing it, and I said, I don't like this. It's too corny, you know. I really didn't like it, you know. And that's, if you listen to our version of it, it's kind of, it's earthy, but I mean, I'm not really trying on it, you know. And just disregarded it. And then we're working with Todd Rundgren in our studios. We were doing Straight Up, I think it was. And then Nielsen comes in and says, I've got this song that I want you to hear. You know, I didn't know, I knew who Nielsen was, but I didn't know him personally. He come in and introduced himself. And he took us to the mixing room. He said, I want you to hear this. And he played Without You. And that really showed me what you can do with a song production-wise and, you know, with a good singer, you know. And it just blew me away. And I said, well, where did you pick it up from? And he said, well, I thought it was an old Beatles tune. And I asked Richard Perry, to find it for me. He said he went through all the Beatles albums, and he was stumped. He said, I've heard this song somewhere, you know. He had it in his brain. And they said, we started going through your albums, you know, Beatles, you know, Badfinger, try that. And they found it. He said, and to tell you the truth, we came to England to do this album with just this one song. You know, we didn't have any other songs. You know, we just went around publishers and whatever else. We built this album around this song, he said. I said, well, I thought it was corny. He said, well, what do you think of it now, you know? And I was told, that's why I don't mind ballads anymore.
How many copies of that sell for Nielsen?
I really don't know. I mean, it keeps me in pocket still, you know, and there's still a big lawsuit in Apple. It's made a lot of money since it's been a hit too. You know, with the K-Tels and the classical pops. It's been on a lot of things. You know.
And how many people have recorded it now?
I've no idea. A lot of people have recorded it.
What are some of the versions apart from Harry's?
Well, English people, Shirley Bassey. Someone did it the other day. Roberta Flack did it the other day on TV. I was knocked out by that because I really think she's a great singer, you know. It was on the Tom Jones show. And I'm sitting there really depressed, you know, thinking, what am I going to do here, you know? And this comes on, Roberta Flack comes on, I think, oh, that's all right, I'll watch it, I could like her, you know? And then she starts doing it without, you know, and hey, felt a lot better, wrote a song after that, you know? Things like that do you the world a good, you know, when you need it, you know.
It must be a nice feeling to have written, I mean, a real standard. I mean, not just like any old pop song, but I mean, a thing that like will probably be being recorded in 20 years' time.
Well, that's a good feeling of longevity. It gives you the impression when you're in self-doubt that you can write songs, that because it still goes on. People play it on the radio still. You get like the local radio here, they have people's all-time top 6, you know, and the average housewife will ring in, you know, and that'll be amongst them. And you think, well, somebody likes it and it's carrying on, you know.
Okay, so what's in the future for Tommy Evans?
Well, I'm just going over to America now, to Minneapolis, to record with a guy called Don Powell, who just phoned me up last week and said we did a tour just before Christmas. Had Donnie Dacus on guitar, Reed Kalin, who used to be in Grassroots, and a band called Player, and Mike, and Bob Jackson, who was in that Cheetah tour. He's the keyboard player. He did one album that we made on Warner Brothers, wasn't released. Bob played on it. So we got quite a lot of note to tour because we did it professionally and seriously, you know. And this Powell guy had heard through the grapevine that the band was happening, and so much so that he flew over here to investigate. I played him songs that I've had for 2 years now. I've just been sitting writing, not getting any outlet for them. And he said, "Oh, let's do it," you know. So I'm going over there to do it.
Well, that's good news. Who knows? Maybe there's another Without You amongst it.
There could be. I've been writing with Frankie Miller as well. We wrote a good song together. He's just doing an album right now as well, and he's going to do 3 of the ones that we wrote. And I've got a couple of songs for Joe Cocker too. I'm approaching it from the songwriter's idea for change.
Songwriters make more money than anybody else.
Oh,
You've probably noticed that. Listen, Tommy, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And the comments have been lovely. Could you do an ID for me?
Hi, this is Tommy Evans from Badfinger here, and this is Tommy Evans of Late Badfinger, trying to do an Australian accent.
A year after this interview, Tommy Evans, like his partner Pete Ham, committed suicide, apparently as a consequence of a fit of depression brought on by the appalling tangle of his affairs. As this is being spoken, it is still not possible to buy a legal album of Badfinger's Apple recordings. The morass which contributed to the loss of 2 lives remains as sticky and treacherous as ever. Rest in peace, Tommy.